Alrighty, I am going to start off with some quick introductions before we get things started here. My name is Sam. I'm the communications manager at Fairy God Boss, and Fairy God Boss is the largest career community for women. Our platform supports women in their careers through free resources like company reviews, job listings, webinars with various experts like Ericka herself, virtual recruiting events, and a community where users can be honest about their triumphs and failures, either as themselves or anonymously. So before we get started here today, I just want to let everybody know that we will have a Q&A at the end of this webinar. You can use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen to leave a question throughout. However, we will be hosting questions only at the end, just so you know. Also, this webinar is recorded. So if you miss anything, you have to leave early, we'll be sending it out in a follow-up email so you can catch anything you may have missed. Here with me today is Ericka Spradley. As Chief POWHER Officer of Confident Career Woman, Ericka is an experienced coach, author, interview trainer, former hiring manager, and career readiness adjunct professor who exists to help organizations improve their bottom line through talent retention and professional development. Ericka has a BA in management with a concentration in human resources, as well as an interviewing certification from the University of Texas at Austin. She's launched an online course platform, Confident Career Woman, where her free course, SWAT Your Way to the Top, positions women around the globe to incorporate clarity and manage their career like a business. These experiences, which include well over a decade of leadership experience as a hiring manager, uniquely positions her to provide clients with the relevant knowledge needed to maximize their career and make power moves. Just so everybody knows, she does have two different documents that she'll be sharing. I'll be sharing them in the chat, actually, that you can use to follow along with today's webinar. And thanks for being here today, Ericka. It's over to you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's broadcast, where I will be discussing how you can ditch the downplay at work. My bio reads nice today, but it wasn't always the case. Just to give you a little bit about my background before the bio, I was actually in retail for about 18 years, and I woke up one day and thought, what is it that I want to do with my career? And I had no idea. I knew what I did not want to do, but I didn't have a plan. A leap of faith actually landed me in banking. I transitioned into banking without having a degree, having never worked in the industry as a financial center manager. And even when I secured my role later on as an adjunct professor, my degree is not in education, and I've never formally taught. I, in some ways, was a victim of downplaying my expertise because I had no idea skills were transferable. And as I've worked with women and observed women, I've noticed that although we are performing exceptionally well, there are some things that we can do differently in terms of how we show up in the workplace. So I'm going to share some of those strategies with you today, and I look forward to your questions at the end. Today's agenda is fairly brief. I'll tell you what Ditch the Downplay is, why it is important, and I'll give you 5 steps that you can leverage so that you can execute. Let's start with the basic definition of Ditch the Downplay. Ditch the downplay is your ability to stop operating from your weaknesses and minimizing your accomplishments and contributions, etc., because it makes you or other people feel uncomfortable. This is important because 73% of women won't pursue a role beyond their experience, 65% of women won't request a promotion, 52% of women won't ask for a special assignment resulting in visibility, social capital, which is your relationships, and an enhanced skill set. This is also important because we as women aren't socialized to own our strengths. We tend to play small as it relates to our expertise in the workplace, and it's to our detriment. Gender blindness should be leveraged as a tactic for us, but it isn't as popular as it should be. For those of you who are saying, what in the world is gender blindness? I'm about to tell you. Gender blindness allows you to focus on men's and women's similarities, not one or the other. Gender blindness de-emphasizes the gender differences that show up in the workplace. The goal for women is to focus on your individuality, say that fast 3 times, regardless of your gender. Research indicates downplaying gender differences made women more confident, and they actually overcame challenges at work, according to a Harvard Business Review article. This article also stated that women felt more comfortable disagreeing with others and that they were willing to take more risks, take the initiative, and negotiate. When you consider gender blindness, it removes the male connotation from traits and behaviors such as assertiveness, competitiveness, and risk-taking, which are necessary to get ahead at work. Ungendering these qualities makes women more likely to recognize and leverage them, which will increase your confidence. As you are aware, negative impacts of the downplay could include perception of you. That could mean people see you as weak, timid, incompetent, or lacking confidence. Too many times, people are passed over for promotion when they downplay who they are in the workplace. And then you compromise your overall career success. You risk career mobility, financial gains by way of getting job offers and increasing your salary. And then, of course, there are the reputational risks that are associated with downplaying who you are as well. Here's what you need to do to ditch the downplay once and for all. There are 5 steps, and you can access these in the participant guide that Samantha has shared. Step 1 is decide. Everything begins with a decision. Step 2, ditch perfection. Too many times we feel like we have to be perfect. I was at an event yesterday and I was sharing with women as we discussed imposter syndrome that too many times women wait until they have 100% of the qualifications to apply for a role in comparison to their male counterparts who may have 60% and they just decide to go for it. So we need to get better at ditching perfection. We also need to develop mental toughness if we don't have it already. Deploy confident communication. And step 5, no longer neglect your ask. So again, steps 1 through 5. Step 1 is to decide. Step 2, ditch perfection. Step 3, develop mental toughness. Step 4, deploy confident communication. And step 5, don't neglect your ask. Step 1, decide. Everything you are and everything you're not stems from what you believe about yourself. So we need to begin to think different. 5 ways we downplay in the workplace. We say nothing. We use inferior language when we speak. We shy away from accolades and/or the spotlight. We fail to act on opportunity due to fear. And then we neglect to ask for what's required regarding our career success. So again, those 5 ways are silence, meaning we say nothing. We use inferior language when we do communicate. We choose to be invisible. We shy away from accolades and/or the spotlight. We fail to act on opportunity due to fear. And then we neglect to ask for what's required regarding our career success. Here's an actionable step or a power move you can implement as it relates to step 1, deciding to ditch the downplay. Determine which one of the following is undermining your success the most. Is it silence, meaning saying nothing? Is it using inferior language when you communicate? Is it choosing to be invisible, shying away from your accolades and/or the spotlight? Failing to act on an opportunity because you're afraid? or neglecting to ask for what's required regarding your career success. After you select one of the 5, capture your commitment to ditch the behavior that's undermining your success the most, and then identify one person you can share your commitment with who will hold you accountable. I call those squad goals. And as Samantha mentioned, I have a group on Fairy God Boss's platform called Confident Career Woman. So if you don't have anyone you can share your commitment with, perhaps you can meet someone in the group who can help you. Step 2, ditch perfection. You aren't perfect. No one is, nor will ever be. Why then are you setting yourself up for failure by believing you have to be perfect? Perfection is an unrealistic goal. So what's holding you back? Institutional mindsets within the organization, such as stereotypes and discrimination, structural obstacles like the glass ceiling and the glass cliff, and then sometimes it's choices, family responsibilities, work-life balance, self-perception, fear, and the thing that I struggled with, which is why I stayed in one industry, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, complacency. What's not holding you back? Knowledge, skills, and abilities, your intelligence, your qualifications, your personality, and emotional intelligence or empathy. You must be willing to showcase your strengths more than your willingness to shine a light on your weaknesses. You must cultivate self-awareness as it relates to your areas of opportunity without diminishing your power, performance, value, and confidence. You have to fix your focus. Too many times, we as women will look at our limitations, we'll talk about what we don't have instead of what we do have. When you walk away from this session, make a commitment to, if you haven't already, to shine a light on the things that you do well. That's not to say that you make excuses for those areas in which you need to improve. That's just to say don't operate from your weaknesses. Here is a power move. You can review page 4 of the transferable skills document that Samantha has shared. Select the top 5 skills that produce your most powerful performance results. Capture each skill and the results they produce relevant to your performance metrics. The goal in doing this is you want to showcase and communicate your results based on your strengths with confidence. Excellence and effectiveness over perfection. That's what we're going for. So I'll review these action items again. Review page 4 of the transferable skills document. Select your top 5 skills that produce your most powerful performance results. Capture each skill and the results they produce relevant to your performance metrics. And showcase and communicate your results based on your strengths with confidence. Step 3, you want to develop mental toughness if you haven't already. Everything you are and everything you're not stems from what you believe about yourself. You want to build your mental muscle. So what is mental toughness? It is your ability to resist, manage, and overcome thoughts that prevent you from achieving a predefined outcome. Again, mental toughness, by definition, it is your ability to resist, manage, and overcome thoughts that prevent you from achieving a predefined outcome. What mental toughness is not: comparisons, avoiding challenges, sabotaging self and or others, accepting externally imposed limitations, and a fear of articulating your ideas or innovative solutions. If you're questioning whether or not you have mental toughness, here are some things that you can use to determine that. Resilience. People who are mentally tough are resilient. They have positivity traits, meaning there's this ability to reframe negative thoughts quickly. You are a relentless problem solver. You have well-defined goals, so there's this level of clarity that you have. And of course, you're confident. So some of the mental toughness traits include resilience, positivity, an ability to reframe negative thoughts quickly, problem solving, clarity, and confidence. Here is a power move that you can implement as it relates to mental toughness. Rate the following traits from 1 to 5, 1 being your weakest trait and 5 being your strongest. And those traits again are resilience, positivity, relentless problem solving, clarity, and confidence. After you rate those traits, identify 3 action steps you will incorporate that improves your weakest mental toughness trait. Again, once you rank those traits from 1 to 5, with 1 being the weakest and 5 being the strongest, identify 3 action steps that you can take that will improve your weakest mental toughness trait. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 3 steps. It can be 1 step that will move you from that weakest trait to an improvement, but up to 3 is perfectly fine. Step 4, you want to deploy confident communication. You were born with a unique skill set, unmatched talent, and unparalleled wisdom. You alone are like no one else on the planet, which makes you an asset. So make the decision to play bigger. In the upcoming slides, I'll share some communication mistakes that we as women make or have made. When sharing accolades, we use we versus I. That's not to say that you can't use we, but a lot of times we don't talk about I enough, especially in the interview when you're sharing examples around teamwork and collaboration. In those instances, you want to make sure that you communicate a delicate balance between how you function in a team and what you do as an individual. So make sure that you don't make the mistake of talking a lot about we and not enough about I. We use shrinkers when we communicate, such as I think or just. We fail to challenge authority. And I use that in quotes because there is this perceived power due to seniority or influence or title. We also respond with emotion instead of using strategy and facts. There's this tendency to use powerless language, such as this might sound crazy, versus saying, I have an idea that I believe will, and then you can insert the result. I recommend that you communicate directly with specifics. No mind reading. Don't expect someone to figure it out. Communicate and say what needs to be said using strategy, facts, and specifics. Be fully present. Listen attentively to what is or isn't said, then ask probing questions. Avoid assumptions. Leverage silence if you need to, and separate your reaction from your response. Avoid over-apologizing. Sometimes we say, I'm sorry, one time too many. Consider the perspective of others without rushing to speak. Concentrate on your one thing, the one point or purpose your audience or the person you're speaking to will take away. Ditch filler words such as like, so, and you know. Practice the pause to adjust your rate of speech and consider your tone. Then there's this thing called UPTALK. UPTALK is a manner of speaking in which declarative sentences are uttered with rising intonation at the end as if they were questions. Inflection goes up at the end of a statement instead of down to sound like a question. Women tend to use UPTALK more frequently, and they sound less confident as a result. Leaders avoid uptalk unless there is this desire to make others feel safe, usually in one-on-one situations. So here's an example of how to use uptalk and how to avoid uptalk. Remind Janet to adjust the distribution list at noon Eastern Standard Time today. In comparison to, remind Janet to adjust the distribution list at noon Eastern Standard Time today. You want to sound as though you're giving direction, not asking for clarification. So here's your power move as it relates to confident communication. Request feedback from your leader, peer, mentor, or sponsor regarding your communication. Ask if you're making any of the communication mistakes referenced in this session, and then solicit feedback or suggestions regarding tactics you should implement to correct your mistakes. Again, here's a power move around confident communication. Seek feedback from your leader, a peer, mentor, or sponsor, or maybe all of the above regarding your communication. Ask if you're making any of the communication mistakes referenced in this session, and solicit suggestions regarding tactics you can implement to correct your mistakes or improve your communication. Step 5, don't neglect your ask. As soon as you accept a job offer, you've signed up to play the game. With this in mind, you should play to win. In other words, stop sitting on your ask. 92% of women don't feel confident asking for sponsors. Side note, you need a mentor, sponsor, and coach at every level of your career. 76% don't feel confident requesting access to senior leadership. 62% won't ask for a raise. 56% don't ask for a new role or position. And 48% won't ask for a flexible schedule. Here's how you can position your ask. Consider options as well as the outcomes of your ask. Think strategically to create and communicate mutual wins when you position your ask. Think about what the win is for you and what the win is for the person you're actually asking. Build your case and present the facts around your win. You also want to list the benefits of the ask for the other party. And how will you close your ask on a high note? So again, when you're positioning your ask, your mindset should be mutual wins. What is a win for you? Build your case and present the facts. What is a win for the person you're asking? List the benefits of the ask for the other party. And then how will you close your ask on a high note? Here's your power move. Position your ask and then ask. Ask for one thing that will advance your career, accelerate it, or that's required to enhance your job performance. So again, you want to think about your ask, put strategy around it on the back end, and then ask for what it is you need to accelerate and advance your career. Now I'd like to talk to you about relationship goals, and not relationships as in a significant other. That's not what I do. I'm a career coach. But I want to talk to you about the relationships that you intentionally build that will accelerate your career. One thing that will accelerate career advancement faster than anything else is your relationships. Women make the mistake of doing the work, meaning the performance, in the absence of intentional relationships. I'm not saying you shouldn't do the work. I'm saying you should do the work and build your relationships. Remember, some doors will only open from the inside. You will need people as well as the performance to have a successful career. With this in mind, I actually created an online course called Relationship Goals, and it's how to cultivate social capital to advance your career. And in this course, I provide communication framework framework that positions your ask. It shows you how to request a meeting. It gives you sample agendas. I tell you mistakes to avoid when cultivating relationships. And it's a solution if you're unsure of how to begin, what to say, and if you're pressed for time as it relates to networking. I also have bonus downloadable guides in the course, how to attract an ally, and I give you examples of social capital questions that you can pose as you're having these conversations. If you decide to take advantage of the Relationship Goals course, I will also throw in my Career Change Crash Course, which typically sells for $99. But in the Career Change Crash Course, you'll receive a selfie study so you can gain clarity regarding your next career move. It helps you implement a realistic plan to land your new role. It also helps you position your expertise as a qualified candidate relevant to the position that you're interested in. This course also helps you revamp your resume in a way that aligns with the employer's needs. It helps you evaluate STAR responses for effectiveness during your interview. And as a bonus in the crash course, you'll receive insider tips that help you get hired and secrets that you may not know from the hiring manager's perspective. You can have both of these courses for only $19.99. When you enroll in the Relationship Goals course, I will follow up with you and give you the complimentary code for $99 to receive the Career Change Crash Course. Simply go to www.confidentcareerwoman.com to enroll in Relationship Goals, and this offer expires with the free Career Change Crash Course tomorrow on September 18th. Let's continue the conversation in my Fairy God Boss group. You can find me in Confident Career Woman. After this session ends, I'll be more than happy to answer questions around Ditch the Downplay, or maybe even other questions that you have around your career. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now, Samantha, I'm ready for questions if you are.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Ericka. What a great presentation. So just a reminder to everybody, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to leave any questions you have. You can leave them anonymously as well. You can also leave them in the chat. I will find them there. But in the meantime, we did have a few questions come through during, so I want to get to those right now. Perfect. First question is, I don't have anybody at work that I would feel comfortable asking to monitor my communication or asking for feedback. Who else can I turn to? Who else should I ask?
When you don't have support around you, whether that's personal support or someone in the organization that you can ask, I would then reach out to those who are on LinkedIn. If you have connections on LinkedIn who may be virtual, you may not work with them, you may not see them on a day-to-day basis, but you are okay with reaching out to them to ask them for feedback, I would do that. In addition, if there is no one that you have in your organization that you can go to, that is a key indicator that you should start building relationships. And those relationships, I call them your success team. You should have people around you that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can get feedback from. And if you volunteer or you do things in the community, you can ask some of those people that you see on a regular basis for feedback as well.
Great.
Excellent question.
Yeah, anybody you're comfortable with, really.
Yeah.
Cool. Another question from Sarah here. Do you have a suggestion for how to remove filler words from your speech? Should I record myself talking, hire a speech coach? Any tips would be appreciated.
Sure. Before you hire a speech coach, because I believe if you can get the resource you need and save money, I encourage people to do that. There is this app, and it's spelled ORAI, and it is a public speaking app. And that will help tremendously. When I first heard about it, I actually downloaded it and practiced in a restaurant while I was waiting for my food to arrive, and I was blown away. So that's an excellent app. Again, that's spelled ORAI.
ORAI, got it. That's a great tip.
Yeah, there's an app. I will also recommend definitely recording yourself. You'd be surprised at what you notice when you play a video back. And that's in your appearance. That's also in what you say. And then the third thing, I actually joined Toastmasters a few years back because I didn't like speaking in front of people. That's, of course, something that comes with an expense, but those are options too.
Yep. Toastmasters is pretty popular. I know a lot of people like to use them. They've had some really great success stories too.
Yes, they have.
Cool. Okay, let's see another question. Do you have any advice for handling situations when men respond to your strength, coming from a woman as being anger and not strength? It's kind of that double stereotype. This woman says she struggled with that double standard a lot. How do you approach a situation like that?
When someone says something, and I call it feedback sometimes, that will be perceived as negative and sometimes untrue. When someone says you're angry, ask them to give you specifics, because their perception of angry and whether or not you really are angry, it may not be the true reality. Yes, it's their perception, but if in their mind, here is a woman who stands up for herself, who has assertive communication, I view her as angry, that's not necessarily something that I personally would want to change. I want to say what needs to be said in a respectful and professional manner, but I don't want to diminish my confidence, diminish who I am, because it makes someone else feel uncomfortable. So when you ask follow-up questions, can you tell me specifically what it is I've said or done to give you the perception that I'm angry? Because all I was doing was intentionally trying to get my point across, and let them tell you. And that the answer that they give you will let you know what the real issue is, because sometimes it really isn't you. It is someone's perception of you and them not being able to handle the fact that you show up a certain way.
Yeah, no, that's really great advice. I think asking specifically, like, how do you think I'm approaching this in an angry tone will really make them reflect as well on what you've said, and maybe realize that you weren't approaching it so angry. You were really just speaking.
Yes.
Great. Another question here. Anonymous attendee asked, how do you handle maintaining your power when there's someone actively trying to undermine you? Oh my. How would you professionally approach this issue to upper management? Oh boy.
You said oh my and oh boy. That's heavy, right? So when someone is trying to undermine your power, I am someone who looks at trends. I do assess individual instances as well, depending on the impact, but I try to give people grace because we all have bad days. But if you are consistently trying to undermine my power, the best thing you can do first is to document it. Document specifically what has happened, when it has happened, and what the impact is, not just to you, but how it's impacting the work. Then I would have the conversation. I would ask for about 30 minutes with upper management to have a conversation about something that I've noticed that continues to happen in the workplace and how we can work collectively to resolve it so we can move the work forward.
Yeah, that's great. I think writing everything down is really important. I mean, in any situation that you're in.
Absolutely.
Kind of jumping off that, very similar question, but a little less vicious. Kathy here has been told more than once to kind of hide her light, and she's not sure how she should deal with that. What would you recommend to somebody who's maybe being stifled a little bit like that?
And did you say it was hide your light?
Specifically the term hide her light. Yep.
No. No, and no again. And again, I don't know what the person meant when they said hide your light, but if that is who you authentically are, here's what happens more often than not, and it's so unfortunate. We as women do so much to show up the right way, and we feel like we can't be authentic. And then those positive things, those things that are great about us, someone then tells us that we shouldn't do it. And then we spend too much time being miserable in an environment that doesn't allow us to really be who we genuinely are and bring our strengths to that environment. When it comes to hiding your light, again, I always like to ask for specifics so that I can solve to what the true problem is and not necessarily what I'm being told. But I would personally look for other options in terms of environments I can be in where I wouldn't have to diminish my light. Sounds like a dark place, or maybe not even the entire organization is that way. Sometimes it's departmental. So you may not need to look for another organization. It could just be another role within that organization. But changing who you authentically are those positive things about you, those strengths, the things that make you great, and quite honestly, are a component of your competitive advantage, I personally wouldn't be comfortable diminishing those things.
That's great advice. Kathy added while you were speaking that she was referring to her work experience might be intimidating to get her, her next full-time job. But I think Ericka answered your question perfectly. And maybe you need to just, look somewhere else that isn't going to ask you to diminish your light. And they're going to want to see all of the great experience that you do have.
Yes.
Great. Another question here from Paris. If clarity is my mental toughness trait that I need to improve upon, how would you approach clarifying professional goals? Would you suggest using goals set from the workplace or personal goals?
Both.
Both.
And I say both because with clarity, I'm learning now how important it is to have clarity, because so many times I would focus on the work, and I would be executing without clarity. So I would literally be operating in reverse. And I had a mentor tell me, don't take action in something that contradicts the goal that you say you set. The problem for me, for most of my career, was that I didn't have any goals. So I didn't have goals, so I certainly didn't have clarity, but I was able to perform. So we as women should have personal goals. We should also have professional goals. And clarity isn't something that you always have. A lot of times you wake up with clarity, sometimes you don't, but be intentional around it. And clarity can come from knowing what you don't want to do. That's what happened to me when I was in retail. I knew I didn't want to work on Sundays because I wanted to be able to go to church. I couldn't do that being in management. So I knew that I needed to find something different. I just didn't know what. And when I put my resume on monster.com at that time, gave my employer a 6-week notice, took a leap of faith, went on vacation, and didn't have a job to go to, I was actually recruited into banking, but I didn't think I was qualified.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So clarity is one of the things that try to have more often than not. And don't beat yourself up about it, right? Because you may not have it every day, as I mentioned, but definitely start with goals. I encourage women to define success on their own terms. It looks different for all of us. Some of us want to go to the C-suite. Some of us don't. Some of us just want a better work-life balance and be able to have a life and a great career. And that's perfectly acceptable. But start with the things that you really, truly want. And then day by day, create your plan and start to take action around the things that you really, truly want.
Yeah. No, it's really great. Okay, this is going to be our last call for questions. You can leave them in the chat or in the Q&A feature. But in the meantime, I will let you know that Ericka does have a group on Fairy God Boss called Confident Career Woman. We'll be including a link in our follow-up email sent after this webinar directly to her group. Feel free to join. I've seen some great conversations happening in there. And if that is it, thank you so much to everybody for joining. And thank you, Ericka. This was a really great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.